All right, welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm as always your grateful host, Cam Williamson. Great to be back with you. Day 10, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. We have heard, since our last video, we've heard from two police officers. Very important. These are the police officers that responded this is one set of police officers that responded when someone in the home called the police. I believe it was the Raquel Pennington. Someone on Amber Heard's team called the police because of a dispute. When the police showed up, these are the two officers that showed up. We've seen one short clip of a video where there's a short female, I believe to be Hispanic, officer, and then a white male officer. They're both wearing masks. I'll comment why they're doing that, because a lot of people are making speculation of it, why they're doing that. And just for context, I was an MP for quite a while. I did have to do quite a bit of domestic violence training and stuff, though I was a combat support MP, so I didn't ever, I wasn't on post patrolling premises. That is a part of the training I had to go through, was to be like a law enforcement MP, and I hated every fucking second of it. But I do know a little bit about it. I have seen it be applied, and we were given context scenarios as to how to apply law in these situations. So that's my background as to why I'm talking about it at all. Okay, in this situation with the police. So you have two police officers. They're the ones who responded. In this short clip, you see the younger, shorter girl, female officer, and she's kind of giggling. I think it was on the way down the elevator. Now, the defense team for Amber Heard wanted to make something of that, like she was enjoying the fact that she got to be a part of this call, and they were trying to imply that either one of them knew who Amber Heard or Johnny Depp was. They both made it very clear that they didn't know Johnny Depp was involved, but they also made it very clear, which seemed to hurt Amber Heard's feelings, that they had no idea who she was. So, let's start there. If these police officers, it seemed like the male officer was in training. He was new, and the female officer was training him. If you're in a city and you're in a police department, you're patrolling an area, you know the hot spots where certain things happen. You know, oh, hey, guess what? There's somebody lives there. They own that building. Like, even false stories. So, do I believe that they had no idea that celebrities lived in this penthouse and that's known to be Johnny Depp's house? Maybe. But are they going to say that on the stand? No. Here's exactly what you're taught to do. And I went through extensive training for this with MPs because I was going to Guantanamo Bay. And that's where a lot of my being prepared for having to defend yourself legally in law enforcement experience comes from as well, is I was trained extensively on, like, when you do something, you have to be able to articulate every single thing you do because you might need to defend yourself in court, right? So these officers are being very vague. Very vague. They're going to. There was two specific points where this officer started to give a little more than he should have, and I wished he would stop. The inner law enforcement guy in me goes, hey, shut your mouth. Because he was doing very well, and I enjoyed watching the layman commenters being like, why is this guy so bland? First off, you're watching a video deposition that happened over a year ago. Right? So they've cut out the fat. They've cut out the objections. They've cut out all this stuff. You can kind of hear it if you're listening, but they've cut most of that out. So they're just getting question, answer. So Elaine, while she is also being very hostile to the police in this one, which people get uncomfortable with, guys, that's their job. It's not a secret that lawyers and police officers don't like each other much because when they do go at each other in a courtroom, it's you are incapable, which Elaine is trying to do. She's trying to say you were too young to even be dealing with this situation on the force. You weren't trained, and I don't think you guys were even qualified to read the room. That's what she's leading at. She's also trying to just imply there towards the very end that he could be brought up on charges for not filing certain reports. Listen, all fault of that officer falls away when Amber Heard says, I don't want to file a police report. And also it falls away when they physically don't see any probable cause. This is where any paranoid people that believe the police are just going to come kick your fucking door in for whatever you think you're doing is so important. Police know that a day in court is possible. They're not just going to do something just to do it. that someone else could go, hey, this is the reason why that happened, and a cop would have to articulate it. Elaine, Amber Heard's defense team, very quickly was like, where was your body cam footage? They wanted to see that shit. They didn't have it. They were saying that they didn't have it. Okay, this is where let's talk about actual police officers. Do these two officers know more than they're letting on? Probably. Absolutely. The first time that the male officer, gave more than he should have was when she asked something about the way that reports come in. He goes, yes, technically any officer that's on duty that night, I can see any call from any district. I was like, don't say that. You weren't asked that. You were asked, is this the thing you use? Yes. Is that what you were using that night? Yes. Is this what you got the call on? Yes. Stop. There was another situation that she tried to flip on him, and I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was the reason you're taught to keep your fucking mouth shut and not lie. Don't lie. You're not encouraged to lie. You're encouraged to give only what was asked. Don't give any more. Don't give any less. Did you see this? Yes or no? Because here's the thing. When you start doing what Johnny Depp does, which is try to give context, and you start using very, even if they're not descriptive words, but words that you're using to describe something, any good lawyer is going to find one misspeak that you use, and they're going to flip it on you. And they're going to be like, oh, wait. You did see that. You answered no, but then when you kept going, and it's like, oh, shut up. Because everyone who's not lying, right, in these witness situations, they're towing a line between personal liability and trying to let the truth come out. Now, does everyone realize that this situation is ugly and it's sticky and it's messy and there's probably a lot that went into it, and there's, like this Raquel Pennington and this whatever her boyfriend's name is, and a couple other people that always just seem to be around when all these things pop off. It's like, do they know a lot? Yeah. Hell yeah, they do, because they were there and they actually fucking know what happened. But what surprises me, and I think we're about to get to this in the case, is Amber Heard, she wants to press no charges. These cops are not saying anything because she gives them nothing, right? And now they've been called by Johnny Depp's defense team to speak on behalf of the fact that they saw nothing. Okay, so then there's a regroup that happens. Amber Heard is, she shoos off the police. I guess they're there for about 15 minutes. Time happens. I guess it's like an hour to 2 hours. And then the police are called again, because if you don't want to give a report to the police, they will give you a business card. That's very common practice. Here's a card. Call us if you need us to come back out and file a report. Too easy. A couple hours later, she calls. Now, apparently, there's redness or something like that on her eyes. And they say that it was apparently from, like, crying. It didn't look like she had been struck or anything like that. It looked like she was crying. Now, I didn't see whether an actual report came from this. I think we're going to talk to the officers that responded to that call, and we'll see what actually came from that then. But people are knocking the bravado of the police officer and going like, why is he being so, stern? He has to. Again, remember, police officers are human. So, like, if he was wearing body cam footage that day, and they could pull the audio from it, which you always notice the audio goes missing from most body cam footage. Why? Because cops are human, and they talk. They say shit. And they say shit that, sure, they probably shouldn't be saying on the way up to a call, making light of a situation or something. You just don't know. You don't know what people are saying. They're being human beings in a moment that they don't think they're being monitored. So anything could fucking happen, good or bad. Right? Somebody could choke and they could save them. A lot of shit could happen. So it's like, does everyone want every free moment of their life recorded? No. But when you're a civil servant, and again, every day, this is something that I encourage my officers out there to remember. Every single day that you wake up and you put that badge on, remember, every action you take, someone could come for that ass. And I had someone that I loved, still love to this day very much, even though him and I don't talk anymore. And he's a police officer. And he's a very, type A personality. He's a very confident guy. He's, he's a good looking dude. He's very available. He's very able to do his job, right? And I remember with him, when he became a police officer, I worried so much because he was such a funny guy. And he was so genuinely kind-hearted and loved everyone that he was willing to joke and he had been through some shit in life. So he had a darker sense of humor like many of us did. He was an MP friend of mine. And, I worried so much because I was like in a situation like what we're seeing this morning in court where seemingly he had nothing to do with the situation. He had he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything illegal. But maybe you respond to that one call. And sure, you had nothing to do with it, but you're called as a witness, and now they pull your body cam footage. Like, the implications that people can make about people can be so damning. And you can see it with Elaine on the trial. They wanted to imply that because these two officers didn't go above and beyond and file a secondary called supplementary domestic violence report, which means if there's a domestic violence report, you are to also fill out this supplementary one to give us more what? Context to the situation. If two officers show up to a scene, there's no damage, there's no probable cause, there's no injuries, and the pertinent person, they're wanting to use the word victim. They learn this shit from the Rittenhouse trial. They're playing with the word victim because the judge is allowing it here, where they're responding to Amber Heard being the victim when the police were called. So in the report, if there was one, she would have been named the victim. There wasn't, so she wasn't. So there was no supplementary thing. So to try to, again, threaten this officer manipulatively and be like, are you aware that you can be brought up on charges for failing to, and he's like, yeah, I know that, but again, that doesn't qualify to me. So whatever, I'm frustrated because I'm watching a trial that at this point just seems so unnecessary. I keep waiting for these bombshells to drop where it's like Amber Heard's team has to know something. This is a 6-week trial, right? And it's like the best we're doing right now is we're pulling the police in that she refused to file reports with, who claimed there was nothing going on. Sure, she was crying at one point, but then her legal team starts to berate the police. So it's like, okay, fine. You're going to berate the police. Are you planning to call any police officers in as a witness? Because that might not go the way you think it's going to go now. I'm just saying, to be so bold as to try to make a liar out of two civil servants in a city when your client is very publicly and there's a lot of evidence to show she's a liar. Hey, I wouldn't do that. Now, it's easy, again, for her to do because she's appearing by video deposition. This is not a police officer in her local town that she'll have to possibly see again or have to deal with the backlash of intimidating this way. And officers are prepared for this. They go through, if it's a case this size, they probably went through weeks of training, those two officers, where they sat down with legal teams of the department and said, you will and will not say these things. You absolutely, under no circumstances, will say this. You will not say that you were doing anything on behalf of these people. And I want to talk about one very key, important detail. They wanted to talk about the notebooks, the note, whatever the officer uses to keep their field notes in. That is a sacred document, right? Even as an MP, when you are handed your green field notebook that you keep notes in, you're told, don't rip shit out of that, don't draw in that, don't doodle in that. That's not to keep, get bitches' phone numbers with. That book will and is always to be treated as sacred. Why? Because it can be subpoenaed in fucking court. So, don't be writing your hystericals in it. Don't be ripping shit out, because if you rip a page out, you might have to answer for why you did that. And your answer of, well, I needed a piece of paper, might make you look like absolute shit in front of a stand for a second. Now, it might not mean anything, but you never know the way the world turns. So if you're given a book, like a field training notebook, and you're told, don't rip pages out, don't write dumb shit in it, you really ought not do those things, right? So they really want to see those field training notebooks because they want to see, did that officer make a note of a stain on the carpet because they're claiming they didn't notice it? Did they make a note of broken glass anywhere because they say they didn't see any of that? Did they notice more redness or swelling than they claimed? Or, did they use words that could help this defense team? Because right now, the words that everyone keeps using is clasping at straws. That's what this defense team is doing. Hardcore parkour grasping at straws so they don't fall the fuck off this case. Because it's, again, unless there's such an impressive case in chief coming for Amber Heard, I think everyone's time and financial resources are just being wasted at this point. Why we wouldn't just choose to cut to jury deliberations now would be premature and would be unfair to the one that's being accused. In this case, that's Amber Heard, of being accused of defamation. And we have to remember that this is not a domestic violence case. This is a defamation case. So she claims she was abused. The scope of the word abused will be in light later, I believe. They're going to talk. I think Amber Heard's, closing statements are going to end up being how she was abused via words and emotional, abuse. And I think that's going to fall in the hands of the jury to how picky do they want to get. Was she abused, Amber Heard? At this point, did he call her fat and shit? Yeah, that's not good. You can't do that. Does that mean that because she was called fat, she gets to claim she was a victim of domestic violence? Or because she kept herself in a room, seemingly planted herself and a recording device in a room while a man has a flip out? I don't know if that would clarify as abuse. They're talking much about now the, accusing your spouse wrongfully of infidelity. Are you going to say she was abused because he said she was fucking Elon Musk? I think it was proven that she was. Now, he also claimed like Billy Bob Thornton and a few others. But like, again, legally, can you say she was abused if she's known to be a little more loosey-goosey with what a relationship looks like? No, I don't think you can. So here we stand. Court's about to go back into session. We got one more officer coming. Hopefully this is the pair that responded to the secondary call when she called back, and I believe she's going to say, I do want to file a report. So we'll hear about that. And I guess this next witness is only supposed to be up for about 35 minutes. Hopefully we'll move past these officers because, again, you're not going to get shit from them. You're going to get a whole blanket full of nothing, and it's only how much is Elaine going to piss off everybody in the world with being pissy to police officers. All right, guys, I'm going to get back to it. Maybe there'll be a second video today if something real exciting happens and I have time to make it up. I love you guys so much. Please be kind to one another, and we'll see you in the next one.